Hi, howdy, hey, everybody! It's me, Random Tree, back at again with A Snicker of Magic by Natalie Lloyd. I'm gonna be doing this in a little bit of a different video style once again. I don't know if you guys were here for last time, but last chapter, 17, and then I did a speed paint in the background of reading it because I wanted to mix things up a bit. But I don't really feel like doing that, so this time we're doing something a little bit different. Let's get to it.
Let me in, quick! I banged my fist against the door of Oliver Weatherly's mansion. I could feel the rain beating on my face and dripping off the tips of my bangs. "Hey-o!" I hollered again. Charlie Sue Hancock swung the door open and pulled me inside. "Felicity!" She helped me out of my jacket, which was so wet that it popped and snapped like rubber bands against my arms. "What are you doing out in this mess?" "I have to see Oliver now," I sniffed. My nose sucked in a mix of rain and snot. "Is he home?" "He sure is." Charlie Sue wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. She led me up a swirly, spiraled staircase to the second story of Oliver's mansion. "Hey-o, Miss Felicity." Oliver's voice seemed as surprised as Charlie Sue's when she first saw me. "I wasn't expecting you today. Is Jonah with you?" "Just me," I said. "I've got a big problem that only you can help me with. I woke up this morning and found this." I pushed back my sleeve and flipped my hand so Oliver could see the inside of my wrist and what appeared to be the freshly drawn image of a dove. The very same dove that had been on Oliver's arm only a few days ago. "It won't come off," I hollered, "and I have no idea how it got there. Franny Joe had noticed it before I did. We were eating a healthy breakfast of Cheetos and Pop-Tarts when Franny pointed to my arm and said, 'Don't let Mama see that. She gets mad whenever I draw on myself.'" I nearly spewed milk all over Chloe's table when I realized what she was talking about. Oliver Weatherly's tattoo on my arm. I ran down the hall, hurtled over Boney, who was still snoring in the hallway, slammed shut the door of Chloe's bathroom, and tried to scrub the bird away. The skin of my wrist turned a blotchy red, but the bird stayed put. "I can't get it off," I hollered at Oliver. But Oliver didn't look perplexed. Despite my yelling, Charlie Sue patted my shoulder. "Why don't I make the two of you some hot cocoa?" she said. And she shuffled back down the hallway. "Fine idea," Oliver said. And then he nodded to me and smiled. "You don't need to worry about getting it off. The bird comes and goes as it pleases." "This isn't a bird," I said. "It's a tattoo." And I gulped as I remembered what Mama had said when I saw the tattoo on her shoulder. The word peace, in such tiny letters. They looked like a sparrow's footprint. My Mama was the only person whose words I had never been able to see. I told her how much I liked it, and she said she liked it too. And I told her I wanted peace on my shoulder too, and she said if I ever got anything tattooed on me before I was at least 40 years old, she'd ground me for life. "It's not exactly a tattoo," Oliver said, leading me to this big stuffed chair across from his desk. He settled across from me. "The bird first showed up on my arm the same morning I saw the hot air balloon. You remember that story, right?" "Yes, sir," I said. "Hope calmed down." "Exactly." Oliver's eyes sparkled. "Hope came down, but the bird came first. Most of the time it stays put right here on my arm, but sometimes the bird ends up on somebody else for a while. Seems like it knows when people need it most. When they're most fearful, most uncertain, most unsure. When the bird shows up, that means hope's coming down." "The bird tattoo is a snicker of magic?" I asked. "Exactly," Oliver clapped. Charlie Sue came back into the room and handed me a steamy mug of cocoa and smiled. Better than my family's snicker of magic. Your people used to go invisible, right? I asked, remembering Oliver's story from the Lubin die. Used to, Charlie Sue propped her hand on her hips. But now we just go blurry in pictures. Oliver chuckled. I looked down at the inky dove on my wrist. I could use a little hope, I admitted. Oliver nodded. You mean for the duel, I reckon. Then when Jonah told me about that, I had a feeling the bird might show up on you. It'll sure stay with you through the duel. That bird means good is coming your way. Oliver grinned. You got nothing to worry about now. I guess that's okay then. I finally touched my finger to the bird's wings. It didn't feel feathery or magical. It just felt like my skin. That bird doesn't attach itself to people for nothing, Oliver said. You must have something good worth saying if the bird showed up on you. Wear it well, you hear? I breathed easier then. First because the tattoo would be gone in a few days, and that meant I wouldn't be grounded for life. But I also couldn't help but wonder if that meant everything would be okay. Maybe better than okay. Yes, my heart agreed. Yes, yes, yes. The rain let up long enough for me to run to Jonah's house on Chicken Bristol Lane. As soon as he opened the door, I held out my wrist. Look, I said. I got a tattoo. Splendidly wicked, Jonas grinned. You got Oliver's bird. I told Jonah all about my crazy morning as I followed him into the kitchen. Oliver says it's a little snicker of magic, my good luck charm for the duel. Kind of like a lucky rabbit's foot, but way less disgusting. I stopped so abruptly that my sneakers squeaked against the black and white kitchen tiles. Toast Terry sat at Jonah's kitchen table, with a carton of Dr. Zook's in front of him. Two thick books were fanned open on the table. Since no words were spinning up out of them, I figured they were math books. Numbers tell all sorts of stories to some people, but they've never done so much as a whisper at me. Toast nodded in my direction. How goes it, Pickle? Okay, I smiled. Jonah wheeled around me towards the refrigerator. Toast is helping me with math stuff. You need tutoring? I flopped down in the empty chair. I didn't mean to sound so surprised, but Jonah didn't look offended. He just laughed. Decimals are my kryptonite. We were talking about the duel when you walked in. Tell her your talent, T. I can make grilled cheese with a clothes iron. Toast grinned proudly. That's how I got my nickname. Toast. Someday I'm going to be a chef and make gourmet grilled cheeses. The space llama will be my trademark. That's a splendidly life goal, I said. Toast raised an eyebrow. Splendidity? Splendidly is Felicity's word for awesome, Jonah clarified, coming to join us. Toast has a good luck charm, too. Yeah, I do, Toast beamed. He leaned in and pointed to a lone whisker squiggling out of his chin. I named it Goliath. You named your facial hair? I asked. Of course he did, Jonah beamed, reaching across the table to give Toast a fist pump. That's a monumental achievement. Toast laughed as he stood up and stretched his long arms. I need to use the facilities. Be right back. Once I knew Toast was out of earshot, I said to Jonah, I've never seen him so laid back. I've barely ever heard him talk. Honestly, I didn't think he liked me very much. He's just shy, Jonah said. The two of you have a lot in common, actually. Toast is self-conscious about his voice, and you're afraid to use yours. So you got a know-how over Toast? He's a Beetle project? No, Jonah said quickly. He's not a Beetle project. He's a friend. He's a friend, too. You're a friend, too. If I get a know-how over my friends, that's just a bonus. I flicked at the lid of my Dr. Zook's carton. Does he know you're Pumpernickel? Jonah shook his head. Nope. I couldn't help but smile as I looked down at the bird on my wrist again, tracing my finger along the tips of its inky black wings. He'll do great in the duel, Jonah said. That grilled cheese thing is pretty darn splendidly, right? Better than reading poems, I sighed, tracing the pointy tip of the bird's beak. You are still competing in the duel, right? Jonah's eyes looked all swampy, green, and sad. Because I thought after you figured out the Threadbare connection, you might not. You knew my family was cursed, and you didn't tell me? Must have figured it out at the same time you did. Mama told me your family was kin to the Witherleys. Jonah shook his head. But you heard Oliver. Nobody knows if that curse was even real. After all I've told you about Mama's rambling habits, you don't think the curse still exists? I swallowed. Not even a little bit? Maybe you only have a snicker of it, he conceded. A snicker's enough to do plenty of damage. Jonah moved his hands closer to me, and I thought he might touch the bird on my wrist, but he didn't. You know, if you don't want to do the duel, I won't be mad. It's not like we'd stop hanging out or anything. I raised my eyebrow. Seriously? Jonah nodded. I only want you to do the duel because something good will happen there, I sighed. I'll do the duel. I already told Mama and Cleo I would. I don't want to disappoint them by backing out. Plus, I have a plan B. Jonah raised an eyebrow. Plan B? I thought maybe we could figure out Isabella's riddle. Then we'd break the curse. You're not a Threadbare, Felicity. Even if you're related to them. So what? You're related to lots of other people. You're part pickle, part harness, part who knows what else. There's a part of who you are. They're a part of who you are, but you are the only Felicity. I think Oliver's right. The curse only matters if you let it. But all the same, I said, trying not to sound like I was begging. There's a chance we could break it. The last duel was when everything went wrong. What if this is the duel where we make everything right? I'm part Threadbare. What if I'm here for a reason? What if I could do it? Maybe Jonah didn't believe in a curse, but I could tell he was intrigued. Just as he started to answer, he heard Toast bellow from somewhere in the house. Pick it. Okay if I play your piano? Sure, John yelled back. His yell must have woke up the storm, because suddenly the clouds split apart and the rain fell hard and heavy against the roof. Deluge, waterfall, silver, stormy, star, certain. I wrote down the words dripping down the windows of Jonah's kitchen. Let's focus on you doing the duel, Jonah said. But maybe we could look at the riddle, too. If that makes you feel better. Yes, Yes, I made you a copy. I ripped the page I'd written for Jonah out of my book. He just sighed and shook his head. Have you written any poems yet? Not yet, I admitted, but Florentine says she'll help me. As Jonah popped open the carton of Dr. Zook's Mean Gina's Mocha Coconut, the sound of soft piano music drifted through the house. As I listened, I wondered if there was any story in the world better than music, a wordless and weightless lullaby. Wind, prone to fly right off pages and strings. No wonder people in Midnight Gulch could put their problems aside back when the brothers Threadbare were around. No wonder it was the happiest town in the world. Truly, when Toast said he wanted to play the piano, I thought he'd pound out something like Jingle Bells. I didn't know he was a bona fide baby Mozart. He can play the daylights out of that piano, can't he? He can play anything. It's like he makes an instrument say everything he's afraid to say for real. Then Jonah grinned at me in his secret-keeping way. I call this tune the Storm Song. Watch the windows Flea. You're gonna love this." As the thunder growled louder, Toast pounded the piano keys harder, and the song changed from something lonesome and haunted to a peppy tune that belongs on a Broadway stage. The song sounded bright and happy. It reminded me of sunlight and wildflowers, leaps and kicks. Suddenly the thunder stopped rumbling. The rain squiggling down the windows paused midway. The shy September sun peeped its bald head through the clouds and shone through the kitchen windows. My heart kicked in rhythm with the plucky piano music. Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, yes, yes. By the time the music died down, the storm was over. Guess I better head out. Toast struggled Toast strudged back into the kitchen and shoved his book into his backpack. Later, Pickle. Later, Picket. He saluted us both from the doorway. I said goodbye, but I don't think Toast heard me over the kitchen door banging shut. "Jonah, did he just make the storm stop?" Jonah grinned. "Have I told you about the Terry family magic?" Jonah pushed a carton of blackberry sunrise across the table. I pushed it far away from me and reached for the mocha coconut instead. Jonah didn't miss the movement of my hand. He scrunched his eyebrows but didn't ask any questions. "Nope," I said, "but I heard Oliver say something about them yesterday." "They were storm catchers," Jonah said. "Whenever the drought came and the corn bowed down and the leaves dried up, farmers called on Maud Terry. She'd go stand in the field and sing, and the clouds would come rolling in. Peaceful, easy. The rain lasted for days if Maud Terry called it up. The only problem is that after she sang up the rain, Maud Terry would lose her voice for a long time, and people called on her so often that she never had a chance to say much. So whenever she was out in the fields, she sang as loud as she could. She sang clear and strong, and she tried to make the song even more beautiful than it was the time before." "Couldn't her family help out?" I asked. "You said it was Terry magic. Why'd Maud always have to lose her voice over it? The rest of the Terrys only had a snicker of Maud's gift," Jonah said. "Her girls could call up an hour or two of rain, but they moved out of town as soon as they could. And—" "Poor old Jester Terry." Jonah shook his head. "He just sang up swarms of bees. And Maud's older sister Hester Terry sang so screechy loud that every dog in Midnight Gulch started hollering." That made me laugh. "Nobody had the knack like Maud did," Jonah said. He inclined his head towards the door. "But I think Toast has a snicker. Maud was his grandmother. Good magic runs in families, too." "How do you know so much about so many people?" "My dad told me her story. After he told me, he always asked me what I'd say if I knew I'd lose my voice. For a year, for a day, forever." Now it was Jonah pushing the blackberry sunrise away. "My dad said he heard Maud sing once, back when he was a boy. He said she walked out in the middle of the field and lifted up her arms towards the silver skies. He said the cold wind came first and rippled against her dress and blew her gray hair away from her face. She sang until the rain fell on her face. She sang until her voice ran out. That was my dad's favorite story to tell. He says that's why the weather is so crazy in Midnight Gulch now, because Maud's not here to sing to the sky." "Tell more about your dad," I asked. I didn't look at Jonah. I looked at my blue book instead. When he didn't answer my question right off, I was afraid I'd hurt his feelings or dredged up bad memories. You're stalling, Flea. Jonah's lip quivered in a half smile. You need to get some poems done, or we won't have time to practice before the duel. Practice won't help, I assured him. Oliver's bird won't write a poem for you, Jonah said. It just gives you courage. I wasn't talking about the bird. I pushed my bangs down over my eyes. It won't matter because I'll still find a way to mess things up. You don't mess up when you talk to me. Talking to you is different than talking to a big room of people. Jonah picked up the ice cream container and squinted his eyes towards the trash can. He arched his arm and tossed the carton towards it. Thunk. Perfect shot. Of course it was. Jonah never missed. Why is it different? Because I know my words are safe with you, I said, and my face got hot and tingly. I whipped the side of my face like I could whip the tingling feeling away. Then I stared down at the blue book. I heard the wire of Jonah's wheelchair backing away from the table. He reached for a tall jar on the counter, then settled it gently on the table right in front of me. I saw little curls of paper tangled up inside. My dad's name is Arlie Pickett, Jonah said. His eyes looked extra neon green right then. I had a feeling he was about to give me something way more important than a hope tattoo or a carton of ice cream. He gave me this jar before he got deployed. He filled it up with 365 strips of paper. He told me to pull one piece of paper every single day, but only one. And he said when I got the last slip of paper, that's when I would know he was about to come home. He's coming home soon then. There were only a few curls of paper left in Jonah's jar. I hope so, Jonah whispered. What did he write on the papers? I could only see scribbles on the paper scraps, but full-blown words were floating around in Jonah's jar. Hockey puck, guitar pick, fishing lure, river run. He wrote down things we'll do together when he gets home again. How do you play hockey? I asked. I play my own way, Jonah said. I can't stand up to hit the puck, obviously, but I can't. I didn't mean that, I said. I mean that it's too hot here. There's no lake frozen enough to skate on. Street hockey, Jonah smiled, and then he countered. More like garage hockey, actually. Chicken bristle hockey? I grinned. Exactly. Tell me something else about him, I said softly. He met my mom when they were both in mechanic school. They drove off to their honeymoon in a car they fixed up together. Jonah reached deep into his pocket. He dropped a small, thin piece of red metal onto the table. Before Dad got deployed, he gave my mom half of a red heart that he'd made out of a piece of sheet metal. He gave me the other half and told us both that no matter where he was, no matter how much of the world was sitting between us, his heart was right here. Jonah picked up the metal scrap and swirled it between his fingers. I keep my half in my pocket during the day, but night I keep it beside my alarm clock. But whenever I wake up in the morning, I'm always holding it tight in my fist. Always. I wish I'd given him something to help him remember me when he's over there. He doesn't need any help remembering you, I said. Forgetting people you love is impossible. It'd be like forgetting how to breathe. I still wish it, though, Jonah said. I know I wouldn't be seeing him for a year, and I still didn't give him anything to keep. He keeps all this. I tapped on my fingernails against the jar. You know how Oliver keeps all those pictures on his bookshelves? I'll bet your dad keeps all those memories propped up on the walls of his heart. When he gets lonely, he takes one down and thinks about you and remembers. Jonah flicked at the top of the red metal heart. When he left and when I talk to him on the phone, I tell him that I love him. That's all. That's everything, I said. Jonah's smile faded as he twirled the jagged metal heart between his fingers. He flicked the heart against the table, spun it like a top. I need to be honest with you about something. I'm not as good as you think I am. Sometimes the best thing about doing beetle stuff is that it keeps my mind occupied, so I don't think about what might happen to Dad. Jonah didn't say the word. Instead, he flicked the heart so hard it nearly spun off the table. I caught it in my hand and pressed it flat in front of him. I know the weight of that word. I know how hard it was to say. I still think you're good. You might as well save your breath from convincing me otherwise. Jonah leaned over and tapped the bird on my wrist. Hope's a good thing to hold on to, isn't it? I hope he comes home soon, and I hope we make a million more memories together. I hope for that too, I told him. Jonah glanced up and smiled at me. I smiled back at him, and no more words passed between us. That day, Jonah became more than just a friend who kept my words safe. I realized he was the kind of friend who didn't mind the silent places. The quiet fell between us like a comfortable old quilt, and we both settled into it. Jonah scanned the paper for do-goods. I listened to a bird chirping outside, taking its rare opportunity to sing up at the sunlight. No wonder the storms are so loud and mean in Midnight Gulch, I thought. I'll bet the sky missed Maud Terry's sweet lullabies. I ain't dancing, Chloe hollered. If I start stomping and jumping, everybody in this building will think there's an earthquake. Have it your way then, Booney shot up off Chloe's couch and tightened the banjo pegs. His left hand curled around the banjo's neck. Next, he stretched out his right hand. Booney's banjo picks weren't flat like guitar picks. Instead, they were pointy and silver and curved like little crowns over the tips of his fingers. Holly? Booney asked. I know you want to dance. We got lots to celebrate. What I know is that I haven't danced in years or painted in so long that I'll probably make a mess of that gallery. No more talk like that. Cleo gave Mama such a harsh push she nearly fell out of her chair. Cut loose, Holly. Booney started picking the banjo so fast I thought sparks might flick off the strings. First, Booney shook his hips back and forth, and then he started shuffling around the floor in his mismatched socks. Biscuit was sniffing out the cowboy boots Booney had kicked off by the couch. This night was definitely a celebration. Booney didn't kick off his boots for anything. Get up, Holly, Booney hollered. Mama shook her head no, but her foot was already tapping yes, yes, yes. I guess some people love music so much it gets caught up inside them. Suddenly Mama shot up out of the chair and twirled around so fast that her hair came loose from its elastic. You gotta dance too, Franny, Cleo started, clapping a loud rhythm to Booney's music. And so did I. Franny squealed as Mama spun her around. You too, Felicity. Mama pulled me up out of my seat. I tried to dance the same as Mama. I let the music tell my feet what to do. I closed my eyes and shuffled back and forth, then kicked and I jumped and I spun around so fast that the locket flung up and whipped me in the forehead. I love this more than Friday, Franny Jo yelled. I love this more than fireflies. I love this more than cake icing. I spun around once more and plopped down on the floor, splendidly dizzy with happiness, until I noticed the brochure sticking out of my mama's purse. Settle Silver City skylines and squiggly roads on a map. I wondered if the miles would feel even longer now that they'd be separating me from so many people I loved. I thought about Jonah and his dad, how they still talked to each other weekly on the phone. Thank goodness, but Jonah missed the physical presence of his dad too. I pushed back my sleeve and traced my ink bird, hope's coming down for all of us. I reminded myself, hope was coming down for me at the duel, once I figured out how to break the curse. But I had a sudden and fantastical idea for sending hope out to someone else, someone who needed it even more than me. Once all the pickles and harnesses were snoozing, I snuck down the hall, around Uncle Boonie's sleeping bag, over to the window of Aunt Chloe's apartment, and pushed it open. Squeak! I cringed at the sound and waited for Cleo to run out of her room, flinging her broom, looking for an intruder. That's what happened the other night when Boonie got up to get a drink of water. Apparently Cleo forgot he was here and ran in the kitchen and whacked him so hard with the broom that she nearly knocked him into next week. Nobody got up this time, though. I waited until I heard Boonie snoring again. Then I took one of the table chairs and pushed it up close to the window. Something cold clutched around my ankle, and I nearly screamed. Luckily, I glanced down in time to realize it was Franny Joe and not some mean old shadow. Isabella Thistle's magic didn't sound very creepy in the daylight, but it was sure bothering me tonight. Go back to bed, I whispered to Franny. What are you doing? She climbed up on the chair beside me. You can't fly.
Why would I try to fly? I whisper-yelled. Do you think I'm an idiot? Franny Joe didn't answer. I sighed. Stay here, if you want, but stay quiet. I got work to do. You'll get in trouble for drawing on yourself. You'll get in trouble for being out of bed. I pushed my sleeve up to my elbow and looked at my hope tattoo. You could win the duel with that, said the selfish half of my brain. But you don't need more hope, said the do-good half. You've got enough inside you and all around you. You've got it inside in your friends. You've got it in your family. You've had it all along. I touched the fine tip of the pen to my wrist, right along the upturned feathers of the dove. The ink was so cold I felt every letter as I wrote the words on my skin, sweet as cotton candy. Love you. And then I threaded the rest of the letters underneath it. That's all. That's everything. Next I pressed my lips against my wrist. I know you're not a carrier pigeon, I whispered, and I don't know if you fly long distances. Why are you talking to it? Franny asked. Shh, I told her, returning my full attention to the bird. I don't know exactly what you do, but I'd be grateful if you'd deliver that message to Arlie Pickett for Jonah. Jonah? Franny Joe said. She made kissy noises with her mouth. Hush, I said. Franny gasped. Felicity, your inked bird. It's fluttering. Sure enough, the bird on my wrist shook out its feathers until it was puffed up proud and strong. Then it stretched its wings open wide and flew off my wrist, taking my words along with it. I saw one last flicker of Oliver's bird before it sailed out the window and blended into the night. The bird was my only good luck charm, I gulped. The duel was coming. Mama was leaving, and I just sent all my courage out the window. Guess I'm on my own now. Franny Joe slipped her hand inside mine. You're not on your own. You still got me. Well, that's it. This was a long one, I know. But anyways, that was the end of chapter 18, and now we're gonna go to 19 next time. See you guys. Subscribe, do what you do, and have a great day. Bye-bye.